Something happened inside Buckingham Palace that the royal family did not want you to know about. Not a birth, not a marriage, not a ceremonial occasion dressed in gold and broadcast to millions. This was something far more serious, a document carried through palace corridors long after midnight, sealed in crimson, so sensitive that even the most senior aides were ordered out of the hallway before a single signature was placed. And when Princess Anne stepped out of the private chamber beside King Charles III that night, her expression said everything the palace was working so hard to conceal. This was not routine. This was not ceremony. This was a monarchy bracing for something. King Charles III had just signed a royal order, granting his sister, Princess Anne, one of the most powerful and rarely invoked titles in the entire history of the British crown. Princess Royal Regent. And the moment that pen touched paper, nothing inside the House of Windsor would ever be quite the same again. Stay with me, because what unfolded behind those palace walls, the secret meetings, the silent alliances, the factions scrambling for position, is the kind of royal story that only surfaces once in a generation. And the deeper you go into it, the more you realize that this was never just about a title. This was about survival.
Let us begin with what we actually know, or rather the secrets that managed to slip past those heavy palace walls. Of total royal silence. This emergency meeting never appeared on any official schedule. There was no public announcement and no carefully worded press release to soften the massive significance of this event, completely skipping the usual boring language of routine royal business, meant to keep the public totally calm and incurious. But according to inside sources close to the royal household, King Charles suddenly summoned Princess Anne for a highly private audience at a moment when the royal family itself seemed to be collectively holding its breath. Think about what that actually means. This is Buckingham Palace, an incredibly controlled, schedule-obsessed institution. Every single royal engagement is meticulously logged, briefed, coordinated, and pushed out to the public through endless layers of staff whose entire professional careers are built on controlled public messaging. An unscheduled late-night meeting of this dramatic nature, with personal aides forcibly removed from the corridor, that never happens by accident. It only happens when a powerful insider decides that whatever is about to unfold cannot risk being witnessed by any prying eyes. Those who felt the tension deep inside the royal household that tense night describe a king who looked exhausted but entirely sure of himself. There is a massive difference, and it matters. Exhaustion is physical, but true uncertainty is structural. King Charles may have been carrying the heavy weight of illness and duty in his frail body, but the massive decision he was preparing to make had clearly been weighing on his mind for a very long time. One royal insider described the mood in the room as completely resolute. The rare kind of resolve that only appears when a leader has finally stopped asking if a difficult thing must be done and has simply accepted that the moment has come to do it. So, what exactly was written inside that sealed crimson dispatch, the shocking document that changed everything forever? For many decades, Sir Timothy Laurence has quietly existed in the soft margins of Britain's royal world. Present, steadfast, and yet nearly invisible. His name rarely flashes in headlines, his voice seldom heard beyond the palace walls. He is not a prince nor a man of public spectacle. However, those who closely watch the royal family know that silence in the House of Windsor is never a sign of weakness. Silence is often a strategy, and Sir Timothy has completely mastered it. Born in 1955, Laurence built his entire life not on flashy glamour but on strict discipline. As a career naval officer, the sea shaped his path. Calm on the surface and deeply controlled beneath. He graduated from the prestigious University of Durham, trained with absolute precision, and climbed rapidly through the Royal Navy's ranks with quiet distinction. His former colleagues described him as highly methodical, unfailingly polite and incredibly discreet, rare qualities that in this modern monarchy are harder to find than royal titles themselves. In the 1980s, his life course crossed with destiny. Appointed as an equerry to Queen Elizabeth II, Laurence became an essential part of the inner machinery of the royal household. He organised complex schedules, accompanied the Queen on major engagements, and quickly learned to navigate that delicate balance between public service and absolute secrecy. But it was within this heavy duty that something entirely unexpected happened. He met Princess Anne, Queen Elizabeth's only daughter. At the time, Anne was weathering intense personal storms. Her marriage to Captain Mark Phillips had begun to quickly unravel, and the media swarmed like hungry hawks around every single shadow of scandal. Yet within that emotional turbulence, a quiet, strong companionship formed. Timothy Laurence was completely different from the men around her, disciplined but kind, reserved but incredibly steady. Over time, what began as simple professional trust slowly deepened into something much more personal, much more human. By 1992, their bond was undeniable. That December, in a very modest ceremony at Crathie Kirk near Balmoral, Princess Anne quietly married Timothy Laurence. A royal's wedding completely stripped of royal pageantry, defined instead by pure sincerity. But unlike so many who enter the royal inner circle, he received no fancy title, no princely honours, and no official role. He became simply her supportive husband, a man, without a crown or courtly rank, standing 2 steps behind, yet always right beside her. And that is exactly where he remained. Through long decades of massive state occasions, foreign tours, royal funerals, and intense family crises. Sir Timothy was always there, never as the centre of attention, but as the quiet, steady presence behind it all. His loyalty was quiet, but completely unwavering. His personal composure unbroken. To the watching public, he was the man in the background. To the royal family, he was something far rarer, completely dependable. So, when King Charles III recently conferred upon him the prestigious title of Knight, Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, those who truly understand the hidden language of the monarchy took notice. This was not a routine gesture, it was a clear message. For in the royal world, where every single medal carries meaning and every ribbon whispers secret intent, such dramatic timing cannot be accidental. After 30 long years of faithful service to the British Crown, to Princess Anne, and to the quiet dignity of duty, the man who never sought a title has finally been given one. But whether this gesture marks real gratitude, clever strategy, or something far more subtle, remains the question echoing through the dark palace corridors. So, what hidden message lies deep beneath this quiet honour? Was it genuine gratitude, a warning, or the start of a major, deeper royal shift? Keep watching. This is the love triangle that shaped an entire dynasty. Long before Queen Camilla stepped into the bright royal spotlight, another deeply intriguing royal connection was taking shape. It was one that very few outside those palace circles truly noticed. It was not between a prince and some fair maiden, but between the ever-practical Princess Anne and a dashing army officer named Andrew Parker Bowles. Back in the early 1970s, these two were far more than just friends. They shared a very deep connection, and whispers around the palace constantly hinted at a romance that might have blossomed into something truly lasting. Some insiders even say their bond was every bit as passionate as it was genuine. But this budding relationship took a sudden, unexpected turn, not because of some royal scandal or family disapproval in the usual dramatic fashion, but because of something far less talked about by outsiders. religion. Andrew was a devout Catholic, and royal tradition at the time strongly discouraged such romantic unions. A Protestant princess marrying a Catholic was simply off limits back then in the eyes of the British monarchy. And so, with quiet hearts and perhaps deep unspoken regrets, Anne and Andrew went their separate ways. Camilla Shand was a name that would later dominate tabloid headlines, but back then she was simply a young woman with strong ties to that exact same social circle. After his romance with Anne ended, Andrew quickly found his way back to Camilla, rekindling a connection they had shared once before. In 1973 they got married, and Camilla became Mrs. Parker Bowles. But the romantic web did not stop spinning there. While Princess Anne had once been incredibly close to Andrew, her brother, the young prince, Charles had fallen completely head over heels for Camilla. Their connection was instant and incredibly intense, but royal duty has a way of constantly meddling in matters of the heart. The heavy expectations placed on Charles by the crown, combined with the public and political pressures of the time, eventually forced the young prince to step back. And in that quiet space of distance and duty, Camilla committed herself to a different life, one that saw her marrying Anne's former flame. Fast forward through many years of royal marriages, public heartbreaks, and private tension. Princess Anne remained completely steadfast in her role always, dependable, always focused on duty. She became known as the hardest working royal, someone who quietly carried out her daily responsibilities with very little fuss. Meanwhile, Charles married Lady Diana Spencer, but their story was far from a fairy tale. Following Diana's tragic death in 1997, and after many years of public and private speculation, Charles and Camilla eventually reunited, this time for good. They married in 2005 and, over time, Camilla successfully transitioned from a highly controversial figure to queen consort. What once began as a set of quietly entangled relationships among those four young people has now transformed into a highly polished narrative of royal duty and endurance. But deep beneath the surface of formal titles and public appearances, subtle traces of those old romances still linger. The past has not been forgotten. It has simply been reshaped into the present, wrapped in royal protocol and rebranded as royal history. It is a story of love lost, love found, and love complicated by both crown and country. Let's dive into Princess Anne's incredible doggedness that earned her the official title of the most hard-working royal, protocol power, and a stiff upper lip. Princess Anne has always been the ultimate quiet force within the British royal family, a woman of duty, discipline, and deep loyalty. While others have been swept up in highly sensational headlines and scandals, Anne has remained unshaken, focused on her royal responsibilities with absolutely little interest in drama. Her reputation as the monarchy's no-nonsense backbone is not just a simple label. It is a legacy she has built over decades of unwavering service. So, when her older brother, Charles, finally married Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005 after many years of controversy, tabloid whispers, and public disapproval, Anne did not cause a scene. True to her steadfast character, she remained calm, collected, and composed. But that did not mean she was thrilled about the union. It was not just that Camilla had been the subject of public scandal or that her relationship with Charles had caused massive heartache within the family. For Anne, the entire situation was even more personal. Camilla had once been married to Andrew Parker Bowles, who also happened to be one of Anne's own past romantic interests. That deeply tangled history was impossible to ignore. Add to that the fact that Camilla and Charles's own relationship had in many eyes shaken the very foundation of old royal tradition, and it is no surprise that Anne approached the situation with considerable emotional distance. There were no angry interviews or dramatic public scenes. Princess Anne did not speak ill of Camilla, nor did she ever attempt to sabotage the relationship. But those close to the royal family observed a very quiet chill in the air whenever the two women were in the exact same room. They did not clash openly, but they did not blend easily either. Princess Anne, famous for her strict sense of royal duty and very traditional views, found herself standing face to face with Camilla's far more relaxed, modern take on life inside the palace walls. Camilla seemed comfortable, breaking away from those rigid royal expectations that Anne had always followed without any question. That major difference in their mindset was subtle, yet incredibly powerful. One specific moment seemed to reveal just how deep Anne's feelings actually ran. After Camilla officially took the title of Queen Consort, royal protocol suggested that even Anne, the king's own sister, should offer a formal curtsy, but Anne simply did not. Whether it was a quiet protest or a reflection of their complex history, that bold decision spoke absolute volumes. It was a tiny gesture, but one that echoed through royal watchers and palace insiders alike. Yet, even in the middle of these unspoken tensions, Princess Anne never lost sight of her grand purpose. She may not have embraced Camilla with warm, open arms, but she did publicly support her crucial role for King Charles. In their public appearances, together Anne and Camilla have always kept up a highly respectful front. They smile when expected, exchanging very polite words, and always perform their royal duties side by side. Behind closed palace doors, however, the atmosphere is far more complicated. This is no soap opera. It is like a high-stakes chess game where every single move is strictly shaped by centuries of deep tradition, layers of personal history, and the absolute unbreakable expectation of royal composure. Princess Anne and Queen Camilla may not be close friends, but they both deeply understand the massive importance of the roles they play. In a world where image matters and every single glance can make major headlines, their story is one of constant quiet tension, hidden strength, and the delicate balance between personal feelings and public. Let us really examine Camilla's quest for acceptance amidst Anne's unyielding standards. This is the side the world never got to see. Princess Anne has always stood out in the royal family. Famous for her no-nonsense attitude and tireless work ethic, the 74-year-old Princess Royal is King Charles's most trusted ally. Their close bond, which was built over many decades, remains one of the strongest in the royal circle. Anne and Charles grew up just 2 years apart and were completely inseparable as children. They often relied on each other while their parents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, travelled often for royal duties. Those early years quickly created a connection that only deepened with time. While others may have seen the crown as a heavy burden, Anne and Charles treated it as a shared responsibility, something that tied them closely together much more than anything else. Unlike others in the royal family, Anne never hesitates to speak her mind. She has earned deep respect for her courage to always say exactly what she truly thinks, even when talking directly to the king. Charles truly values that honesty. In fact, she is one of the few people he fully trusts. During his official coronation, he showed his deep faith in her by giving her the rare and historic title of Gold Stick in Waiting, a position once meant to protect the reigning monarch during highly important events. It was far more than a ceremonial role. To him, it was a massive public sign of his confidence in her. Behind closed doors, Anne is said to be the single person Charles turns to when things get heavy. She gives him straightforward advice, even when her own opinions go directly against his plans. Yet their relationship is not all about duty and serious discussions. The siblings share a very sharp sense of humour that keeps their bond light-hearted. They are often seen laughing together at royal events, teasing each other in public with the kind of genuine warmth only siblings share. During a major charity event at Buckingham, Palace Anne jokingly thanked Charles for letting her use the space, saying with a wide smile, "It really does help." It was her typical mix of sharp wit and charm turning what could have been a stiff royal event into a cheerful moment. Their incredible closeness often leads to highly amusing mix-ups. Once during a public event, Princess Anne was mistakenly introduced as the Prince of Wales. Without missing a single beat, she rolled her eyes and said, "There is a worry." Another time Charles openly shared that while visiting a local care home in Scotland, someone asked him if he was the Princess Royal. When Anne retold the story, she laughed and added, "And I am actually wearing trousers today." It is these playful exchanges that show the genuine ease between them. Truly rare in royal life, their deep friendship has endured through every single chapter of their lives, from the excitement of Anne's Olympic days to the deep sorrow of their mother's passing in 2022. During that difficult time, they stood closely side by side at public events, comforting each other through silent understanding. Where words failed, their shared strength spoke massive volumes. Anne's unique personality makes her one of the most admired royals. She raised her own children, Zara and Peter, completely without royal titles, so they could live freely. Her immense bravery also stands out in history. During a kidnapping attempt in 1974, she famously told her attacker, "Not bloody likely." That courage mixed with humility truly defines who she is. Not even the king escapes her sharp humour. Princess Anne reportedly calls her brother Old Bean, a funny and highly affectionate nickname. But behind that funny nickname is a royal who has endured so much and made countless silent sacrifices that only close family members actually understand. How well do you really know King Charles without his crown? It began with a quiet promotion that spoke absolute volumes. It first appeared in a brief line of print, so brief that almost every reader might have missed it entirely. Just a routine entry in the royal court, circular nestled right among the day's official appointments and acknowledgements. But for anyone who follows the heavily coded language of the monarchy, that quiet announcement carried massive weight. King Charles III had elevated Sir Timothy Laurence, Princess Anne's incredibly loyal husband, from Knight Commander to Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, which is the highest possible rank in that centuries-old honour. At face value, it seemed like a standard formal recognition, the kind that typically passes completely without fanfare. Yet, beneath its polished restraint, the gesture shimmered with a much deeper meaning. The Royal Victorian Order, established by Queen Victoria in RE 1896, is unlike any other accolade in the entire British system. It is never awarded through government ministers or committees, nor is it influenced by political favour or public campaigns. It is, in essence, the monarch's deeply personal acknowledgement, a direct and heartfelt expression of gratitude from the sovereign himself. And so when the king chose to bestow his absolute highest rank upon his sister's husband, the message was crystal clear. This was not just about formal duty, it was about deep trust, loyalty and quiet service. The prestigious title of Knight Grand Cross is rarely given. Those who hold it form a very tight circle: Queen Camilla Catherine, the Princess of Wales and the Duchess of Edinburgh among them. For Sir Timothy to now stand symbolically right beside such prominent figures speaks absolute volumes. It does not make him royal by blood or duty, nor does it grant him new constitutional influence. He remains officially a private citizen, but in royal life, deep symbolism often far outweighs status. Every single choice, every title and every ribbon pinned upon a chest tells its own unique story. This honour feels almost like a whisper of reassurance during a time of immense uncertainty, because the absolute truth is the royal landscape today is shifting heavily beneath its own weight. Illness loss and constant scandal have seriously thinned the front line of working royals. The monarchy has grown smaller, leaner and far more fragile. King Charles is navigating both personal health challenges and the pressures of modern expectations. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, continues her quiet recovery far away from public life. Even Princess Anne, known as the monarchy's hardest worker, simply cannot carry the entire weight alone. In times like these, those who stand quietly in support and those who embody the unseen stability of the crown become absolutely essential. That is perhaps where Sir Timothy's new honour finds its true resonance. It is less about hierarchy and much more about sincere recognition. The sovereign, acknowledging a man who has never once sought the spotlight yet has remained constant through decades of royal transition. The timing feels highly intentional, even strategic. Amid a royal family redefining its image, King Charles may be signalling something far more profound, that loyalty, steady service and silence still matter deeply, and that sometimes the most powerful gestures are the ones made completely without words, quietly hidden in the fine print of a court circular waiting to be understood by those who truly know how to read between the lines. And what could this quiet, almost invisible gesture actually mean? Is it a reward for loyalty or a coded message from the king himself? Stay with us. The Crown's Crucible. In the quiet and dimly lit corridors of the royal palace, a highly important and emotionally charged meeting was taking place. It was one that pulled back the curtain on the deep, often hidden tensions within the monarchy. At the very centre of this intense discussion stood Princess Anne, a woman widely admired for her lifelong dedication to royal duties and her famous no-nonsense, straight-talking attitude. Anne spoke up with absolute firmness and clarity, raising tough questions about Queen Camilla's actual position within the royal household. She wasn't attacking Camilla personally, but rather she expressed a powerful, deep belief that a queen consort must do far more than just wear a crown. She must work, tirelessly serve the public completely selflessly, and earn their deep respect through consistent hard effort. In Anne's eyes, royalty meant heavy responsibility, not just easy recognition. Her words, although calm and measured, carried the immense weight of years of silent observation and dedication. Anne wasn't trying to stir up trouble, she was defending a legacy. To her, being a royal was never about popularity or image. It was about true purpose, discipline and public service. Queen Camilla, on the other hand, listened with quiet composure. For years she had been slowly rebuilding her image after stepping right into the intense royal spotlight during one of the darkest, most scandalous chapters in British history, the time just after the tragic passing of Princess Diana. Back then, Camilla was branded a total outsider, an incredibly controversial figure. Since those days, she has tried hard to win hearts with endless charity work and public appearances steadily, attempting to reshape how the public really views her. Yet, despite all that work, true acceptance was always just out of reach. The heavy shadow of the past still loomed. And compared to Princess Anne, whose record of tireless, devoted service and quiet resilience earned her massive respect, Camilla still looked to critics like she was trying far too hard to prove her worth. But this frosty clash between two royal women was about way more than just their individual duties. It mirrored a much bigger battle, a fierce tug-of-war between tradition and change. Princess Anne represented the old guard, championing the belief that royalty is strictly about duty structure and protecting age-old values. She envisioned a crown built on personal sacrifice and unshakable principles. Camilla, by contrast, embodied the messy, complicated road of royal transformation. Her climb into the very heart of the royal family was never straightforward. It was packed with harsh public judgment, emotional trials and years of painful effort to crawl from total scandal to quiet acceptance. She became the face of a modernizing monarchy, more relatable perhaps, but also far more vulnerable. This dramatic encounter was no ordinary royal chat. It symbolized the monarchy's fierce internal battle to secure its place in our modern world. Can centuries-old traditions really coexist with today's intense demands for transparency, relatability, and emotional intelligence? Can a woman like Camilla, who started her royal journey in deep public disfavour, ever be fully embraced as a true queen consort like those born directly into their regal roles? These heavy questions hung in the air long after their tense meeting finally ended. Princess Anne, forever faithful to her duty, left the room with her trademark quiet dignity. Camilla, poised but looking deeply pensive, remained behind, carrying the massive unspoken weight of expectations and the constant pressure to keep proving her worth. In that silent palace room, a tense new chapter of royal reckoning was being written. It was no longer simply about who held which grand title. It was about how the entire royal family would define itself for future generations. Would they desperately cling to proud traditions or make room for fresh faces and new stories, even when those stories come with messy, highly complicated pasts? The answer, it seems, lies somewhere in the fragile space between Princess Anne's fierce loyalty to duty and Camilla's complicated quest for public acceptance. And in that delicate space, the ultimate future of the monarchy continues to unfold one quiet, honest conversation at a time. Let us take a closer look at the unique bond between King Charles and Princess Anne, which is definitely a major factor influencing how she looks at Camilla, the sibling shadows. Beyond the golden crown, King Charles is a big brother to 3 siblings who have shared his wild journey from palace life to demanding public service. Charles was born first, followed by his only sister, Princess Anne, and then his 2 younger brothers, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward. Together they made up one of the most famous families on earth, spending their entire lives balancing royal duty and tradition. Charles was born on November 14th, 1948, making him first in line to the throne. Just 2 years later, Anne arrived on August 15th, 1950, and the REE pair became incredibly close companions during their childhood years inside Buckingham Palace. A full decade later, Prince Andrew joined the family in 1960, and the youngest, Prince Edward, followed in 1964. With nearly 15 years between, the eldest and youngest Charles naturally took on a strong guiding role as the big brother. Growing up in the royals' household was never ordinary by any means. The siblings often stood proudly beside their mother during her record-breaking reign, supporting her through decades of heavy ceremonies, endless charity work, and global royal tours. As they grew older, each sibling found their own distinct place within the complex royal system. But their deep loyalty to the crown never wavered. Today, that same loyalty binds them even closer. Since King Charles ascended the throne and began his highly publicised battle with Cancer Princess, Anne and Prince Edward have remained constant figures of support. They have quietly stood right beside their brother, just as they did during their mother's historic reign. Their unity proves that, beyond titles and tradition, the royal family's true strength lies in these deep personal connections. King Charles, in return, has always shown immense care for his siblings. When Princess Anne suffered a concussion and minor injuries during an unexpected incident at her country home in June 2024, he made sure to publicly send his love and best wishes through a heartfelt palace statement. It was a small but highly meaningful reminder that even powerful royals lean on family during tough times. Just like their parents, all 4 royal siblings have raised smaller families of their own. King Charles famously raised 2 sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, while Anne, Andrew and Edward each raised 2 of their children as well, giving the late Queen Elizabeth a total of 8 grandchildren. Princess Anne was the first to marry, tying the knot with Olympic rider Mark Phillips in 1973. They later welcomed Peter and Zara, choosing not to give them royal titles so they could enjoy much more normal lives. Prince Andrew followed in 1986 when he married Sarah. Ferguson introduced to him by Princess Diana. The royal couple had 2 daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, before parting ways in the 1990s. The youngest sibling, Prince Edward, married Sophie Rhys-Jones in 1999, and together they share Lady Louise and James, the Earl of Wessex. In recent years, Princess Anne and Prince Edward have taken on vital roles as councillors of state, a special title that allows them to represent the king if he is abroad or unwell. Normally, this crucial role belongs to the monarch's spouse and the first 4 in the line of succession over the age of 21. But with Prince Harry and Prince Andrew no longer working royals, a 2022 law expanded this group so Anne and Edward could step in, a clear sign of the king's massive trust in them. Princess Anne remains one of the family's absolute strongest pillars. In 2023, alone she completed 457 royal engagements, even more than the king himself. Since turning 18, she has stayed active in public life, meeting people all across the world and supporting countless different charities. Beyond royal duties, Princess Anne is renowned for her absolute love of horses. Her late father, Prince Philip, once famously joked about her equestrian obsession, saying that if it does not fart or eat hay, she is not interested. She certainly proved that incredible passion by competing in the 1976 Olympics in Montreal, becoming the very first British royal to compete as an equestrian. It is obvious that King Charles deeply respects his sister's opinion, but is it just mutual respect as individuals, and is their bond as unique as they claim? A rare glimpse behind the crown. Charles III. The coronation year is a 2023 BBC documentary that gives viewers a close look at King Charles and Queen Camilla's first year as reigning monarchs. Broadcast on BBC One and BBC iPlayer on December 26th, 2023, the film followed their journey from the late Queen's funeral to the grandeur of the coronation and the much quieter moments in between. Written by royal historian Robert Hardman and beautifully narrated by the acclaimed actress Helena Bonham Carter, this documentary offers a warm, deeply human look at the royal couple as they adjust to their brand new responsibilities after decades of waiting patiently in the wings. One of the most touching moments comes from Princess Anne, who opens up about her genuine emotions during Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. She describes feeling a deep sense of relief when the crown was finally removed from her mother's coffin, a powerful symbol marking the absolute end of the late Queen's long years of duty. Princess Anne also reveals that her mother actually worried about dying at Balmoral Castle, concerned that it might cause extra practical difficulties. Anne recalled trying to reassure her that such thoughts should not affect her decisions, and she hoped her mother eventually felt completely at peace with where she spent her final days. Beyond the solemn memories, the film also captures lighter, far more personal moments within the royal circle. But for me, during the difficult months since the passing of my beloved Philip, I have drawn great comfort. Cameras closely follow the King and Queen through all the intense nervous rehearsals and emotional build-up to Coronation Day. Viewers get to see Charles and Camilla laughing with their team, sharing warm jokes with family members, and even teasing one another. In one particularly humorous scene, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, forgets a key line from a prayer during the rehearsal, while Prince William playfully pokes fun at his father's sausage fingers as King Charles struggles to tie his ceremonial robe. These rare glimpses behind palace walls show the royals not as distant figures but as real people juggling nerves, humour, and heavy emotion during one of the absolute most historic events of their lives. The overall reception to the documentary was mixed, but mostly highly positive. The BBC's royal correspondent Sean Coughlin described it as a warm and sympathetic account of the new reign. He noted that the documentary carefully avoided controversy, offering absolutely no mention of the recent royal challenges involving Prince Harry, Prince Andrew, or even the coronation protests. Instead, the film presented the King and Queen as a devoted royal couple stepping into their massive duties with mutual support and renewed purpose. At an age when many would be seriously considering retirement, critics from major media outlets offered varied reviews. James Jackson of The Times rated the film 4 out of 5 stars, calling it a uniquely private view of the firm, suggesting that it was just the kind of glowing portrait most other royals could only dream of. No one could say that the king has not earned it, he wrote, praising the film's respectful tone and behind-the-scenes intimacy. Meanwhile, critic Anita Singh from the Daily Telegraph gave it only 3 out of 5 stars, describing it as highly polished and carefully curated. She even compared it to a glossy corporate film, noting that virtually every single scene seemed approved by palace staff and filled with people praising the royal couple. Still, she praised King Charles and Camilla for looking totally authentic and putting everyone at ease during the events. But this glossy documentary faced intense backlash. The BBC was flooded with nearly 900 formal complaints as viewers slammed the special for being a biased, overly glowing puff piece designed to protect the royal family. In fact, that massive wave represented over a third of all viewer complaints during late December, specifically from December 18th to December 31st. Critics like Graham Smith of the anti-monarchy group Republic argued that the entire broadcast felt more like a cheap royal PR stunt than a genuine documentary. Writing for The National, he insisted it lacked any real balance or independence, calling it a basic propaganda film, disguised as a historical record. Even with the public outrage, Charles III, the coronation year, still managed to give a rare look behind the palace walls during Britain's biggest modern transition. The show painted the royal family as united, finding humour under immense pressure while holding on to their dignity. It tried showing a softer side beneath the crown's heavy weight. But do you think there's a deeper royal feud lurking between King Charles and his younger brothers? Is Princess Anne silently harbouring massive resentment towards the Queen Consort? Camilla? Drop your theories below and tell us what you really think. Share your honest thoughts in the comments section. And do not forget to like, share and subscribe for more juicy royal updates. Also, click the next video popping up on your screen. You will absolutely love it.